town council meeting to order. Before we get started, last week we had Veterans Day, and we have two members of our council that was served to the military. And I asked Mr. Murray to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and Dr. Catron give us invocation. If you please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we are so thankful for all the gifts that you give to each of us. Father, we're thankful that we have the opportunity to gather here this evening freely. Lord, we just ask that you would give your guidance to each of us here, that we would follow your will and do the best for the people that we are here to represent. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. At this time, on presentations, we have Andy Cecil with the Recreation Access Grant.
How you doing, Andy?
Doing very well. Thomas, how about you?
Good. While he's on his way up, let's give him just a little bit of background. I know Chancellor's not aware of this, but several years ago, we looked at the entrance to the Little League Park out there across from Jack's old laundromat. It still leaves a lot to be desired, but I went to Andy, and Andy brought a lot to the table when it comes to address. Put a lot of time into it, really done due diligence on juggling different methods to address that problem out there. There's a $250,000 unmatched grant that VDOT's got for recreational access. And Andy has done an incredible job engineering that, not only structurally, but hydraulically, in all facets of all construction. So he'll be going over that with you tonight. That's the reason he's here.
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, I've got bronchitis, so I brought my own water in case I need a spritz. Sure. Pardon me? I don't have enough copies of these pictures for everyone, but I would like you to take a gander at what we're dealing with here, and I'll pass these down. These are pictures for those who recognize the ball field. No, you do. No, you do. You do. We all do. Our kids play down there. There are a number of issues that we have to address to make this thing move forward. One of which, there's a substantial grade separation. So we have to address the grade separation. And I want you to look at that as I pass these pictures around. The other issue that I know the mayor knows a lot about, drainage. You'll see we got some pictures of the fields being inundated with water, and we'll discuss why that's occurring and what we intend to do about it. So let me just pass these down, take a quick gander at them as I give you a little background. We had, of course, you give me the opportunity, I'll tell you what we want to know, but we had several meetings over the last couple of years about what we can do as a town to increase the amount of commerce we have in our town. We had one about 3 years ago. Folks at Virginia Tech came in, and I was at that meeting. We had another one probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I can't remember who hosted that, but they're talking about some realignment of the Chamber of Commerce. And the upshot was that, do we really need a local Chamber of Commerce versus just a county Chamber of Commerce? And my interest was not really to answer that question. My interest was, we need to address the problem, and that's we need more commerce. We need more stuff going on here. And I think Lynn was there, and Lynn and I had some fairly healthy discussions about some ideas about what to do about that. And it's always been my opinion from living here as long as I have, that we have assets here that we don't realize we have. We take for granted the geography that we're blessed with that other people from the flatlands will drive hours to experience. And I've got some good anecdotes I'll share with you sometime about that, but I don't want to bore you too much. But anyway, when Todd approached me about the ball fields, of course the most compelling thing we had to deal with was the grade separation and the drainage issues, and try to figure out how to get all this addressed within an amount of money that we thought we could afford to build. But the long view we were taking was that when I was raising my kids, we spent most of our weekends traveling for travel ball. And we went to some of the most godforsaken places on the planet, places that if Magellan would have gotten there, he'd have turned around and gone back. You know, there's nothing to do. You go to the ball field, you sit around there all day, there's nothing to do, no place to eat. And one of the things that has inspired me over the last year or so is what a lot of our local entrepreneurs are investing their own money in to try to revitalize our downtown. You've got the Seven restaurant, which is really exceeded my expectations about what that guy, the amount of money that guy spent. You have Between Friends, which is, if you want the flavor of Southwest Virginia, a small town, that store's got it. Nancy Brooks' place has opened up. Irma has done an outstanding job trying to revitalize Main Street. And the one that concerns me the most is Blankenship Brewery, which is about 2 doors down from where I work. One of my weaknesses is cold draft beer, and it's like right there. It's a little concerned about that. But anyway, I was talking to Todd and some others in the community about, let's not just, everybody likes to get grant money and do stuff. Well, let's get grant money and let's take a first big step into really doing something nice to try to support these downtown businesses. And if you wrap all this together, what I'm getting at is that we envision the recreational access grant as not just an opportunity to get some grant money and spend it up on something, but take a long view of what we can possibly do down at those Little League fields to make them a very, very spectacular venue that is within walking distance of Main Street. And if the hotel comes to fruition, we all hope it does, I mean, you can stay in the hotel, you can walk the Little League fields, you can walk back up to Main Street, and with all the activities we have, all the music and the drive-in events that we have, we can piggyback a lot of this and really showcase our area. I mean, make it a destination place where people think, we got travel ball this week. Where is it? It's Tazewell. Tazewell. There's stuff to do. It's a nice field. We got a place to stay. There's fun stuff going on in Tazewell. So we're kind of looking at it in that regard. So what I'm going to hand you, I think we have enough of these for everybody. This is a component to the recreational access grant, which we will be sending to VDOT for their final critique here probably within the next couple of weeks. The holiday schedule kind of puts a crimp on a lot of work activities. The wise man told me many years ago, when I was being very frustrated that I couldn't get anything done during middle of November to New Year's, he said, nobody wants to do business between Thanksgiving and New Year's. You're wasting your time. So, now the second one I'm passing out is another component of the application we need to provide to VDOT, and that is a master plan about what we intend to do. And the reason why they have a lot of stipulations is we want to make sure that if you're developing a site or asking for money to develop a site, you actually have a plan to do something. You're not just getting it just to secure some grant money and throw something together. So you have to give them a wheel to kick and show them what you intend to do. Let's start with the master plan, if you would. Just a little bit of history about the parking there that Dr. Mullins has been helping me with the last little bit. And there are two components through which you can ask for these grant funds. One is through the Director of Conservation and Recreation. That's the recreational aspect. But the Director of Historical Resources can also allocate money. And, when you think of historical resources, you think of, something that's on the Virginia Register or the Federal Register as a historic landmark. But the grant application guidelines specifically states that it can be of local historic interest, so it doesn't have to be on the historical register. And another component of securing the grant funds is that the locality has to own the property. So that was one of our starting points. And having grown up here, I knew that, that they played football games down there when we were kids. We had fall carnivals down there. They had Little League down there. So I said, well, I figured the school board owned it. Found out, no, the school board does not own it. The town of Tazewell owns it. And this is what got me moving in the historical direction, not only the recreational direction, but the historical direction. The town bought that property in 1915 for the express purposes of providing playground and recreation for the residents of the town of Tazewell, which, 100 years ago, that was unheard of. In Richmond, you would expect it, and D.C., you would expect it, in New York, you would expect it. But, the local people wanted a place for a playground and recreation, and it's stipulated that it has to be used for that purpose and has to be operated by the town. So, it's the town's property. And when it was originally purchased in 1915, it was a little over 6 acres. And the main road coming to and from town was now the back road, a little skinny back road. That was the main road. 460 was not built until the late 40s. And when it did so, it severed a couple of acres off that property and subsequently put it in a big giant hole. So that's why there are drainage issues there. So anyway, Terry's helping me do some research to see if we can flesh out the historical aspects to try to give our application as much energy as we can. So that's the historical aspect of our project. Now, anybody that knows much about baseball and softball knows that most of your major league fields are oriented such that the batter looking at the pitcher towards second base should be looking generally northeast. Well, we can't do that. We only have about 4 acres of ground left down there. So our fields are going to have to be oriented the way we can orient them. And right now, if you look at this is the way the current fields are. We have 2 fields kind of oriented the same way. But what we're trying to do is augment our parking, hopefully in areas that the foul balls won't take the windshields out, like they often do. And you'll notice that we have both a softball field, which has the brick dusted field, and a Little League baseball field. You can probably interchange play on these if you choose, but this is just the way we chose to do the master plan. And currently, there is not really an access road, but there's more like a driveway that comes in down here where the back of the Dragon is, and comes right along the bottom of that nasty bank and then exits over here. So what we're going to do, we have to have a logical entrance point, and we have to have a logical terminus to secure the money. So one of the logical terminuses they will allow is existing parking. So we're killing this entrance down here because of all the congestion that we anticipate will come because of the new back of the Dragon complex. So we're going to have just the one entrance down here. We will eventually, over time, renovate this parking. We'll get 23 spaces there. We will, all the existing facilities, those old nasty buildings are going to come out. We'll have about 44 spaces up here. We have a 3-story building complex planned here right in the middle. The bottom level of that will be maintenance, lawn mowers and maintenance equipment, and, lining the fields and et cetera. The main level will have restrooms and concession, and the upper level will have most likely press boxes and probably some storage up there as well. And there's bleacher space. There's probably enough bleacher space for about 600 to 700 spectators. And we will eventually, through the subsequent phases, come through and we'll exit over here where Blake Hines lives. I'm sure he'll love that. We did that purposely to irritate Blake Hines.
Can you not use the exit there next to Carl Harris building?
I beg your pardon?
Carl Harris building there.
Oh, the old
The
Cox and White building?
Yeah.
Well, one of the, I don't like to say trick, but one of the maneuvers that you can use to get further access money is you can extend your roadway on down here, and then if we secure this money, we come to do this next phase, because we're coming all the way down here for an exit, we'll be eligible for more funding instead of shortchanging yourselves like you're talking about.
But that's making a dangerous ingress and egress right there.
Well,
You're going against the traffic coming through there.
well, you're always going to be going against the traffic coming through there.
See, what I fought for years is the one that you're closing is to make that an entrance to that park, and the one on the other end an exit, so that the traffic goes with the flow of the traffic.
Right. But again, what VDOT would say is, well, why don't you just, if your objective is only to get to this parking lot, why are you doing this at all? And one of the objectives that we have is to correct the grade separation issue and also address the drainage. So that's why it's done the way it's done. Actually, it was VDOT's suggestion to do that. And since they're providing the funding, we said, great idea. So that's why it was done that way.
Okay.
Now, what's on my pictures?
These.
Okay, is anybody besides me and Buck witness the drainage issues down there? Now, the grade separation matters. The bank there is probably not unstable. It's just unsightly and tends to ravel quite a bit. So the way we had to address that was with some sort of retaining structure. But according to the VDOT guidelines, they use the road and bridge standards as their Bible. And anything that's within the road and bridge standards, if you apply it correctly, they'll automatically approve it. But the only thing they had in there that would address these issues were the no design concrete retaining walls, which are cast in place concrete, and would have made it cost prohibitive. So within the first couple of months of wrestling with this thing, we had to disqualify anything that was in the road and bridge standards. The only other alternatives are what they call segmental retaining walls, which you see used quite a bit. It's like, for example, the split face block walls. There are two types of those. The one's called the gravity wall, where you have fairly large blocks. And the way a gravity wall works is that the blocks themselves are a lot heavier than the driving force behind the block. They're too heavy to push. So we explored the gravity walls. The issue we had with those was, since they're heavy concrete block walls, bringing those in from the manufacturer to a remote location like we have made the freight prohibitive. So the only other alternative we have is what's called the mechanically stabilized earth wall, or MSE wall, which is a smaller split face block wall with reinforcement behind them. Unfortunately, those do not appear in the road and bridge standards. However, VDOT said they would approve them on a case-by-case basis. So after months of discussion with VDOT, our VDOT manager contacted some people in Richmond, and they sent me a list of projects where they had approved previously some MSE walls. And since they previously approved them, we're kind of hoping they'll probably approve them for our project as well. So that we kind of went that way for the MSC walls. So what we're doing, we're using these split face block walls to help raise the road grade up. And raising the road grade up does a couple things for us. First of all, it gets rid of the grade separation. It corrects the unsightliness of that bank because it tends to rattle so much. And also, the drainage issues we have, if you've been down at the park at all, you notice there's one and only one catchment point down there for drainage. And there's a 24-inch pipe exiting that catchment point, and the top of the grate is on the top of that pipe. So there's no zero vertical elevation anywhere on that site to retain water and draw water to that catchment point. So actually, one of the things that drove the final cross section of our road design was there's across the road, I don't know if you've seen it or not, it's just down from the laundromat, there's a catchment point on the south side of the road that picks up water. And that's the photo that you saw where it, that's it, where the water's squirting out of the wall there. And let's see, here's the lone catchment point we have is that. So anyway, it's the elevation of that invert coming out of the bank there that really drives the whole project. That's what established the elevation we need to achieve right there. And the reason being, the only way we can correct the drainage issues is to contain the water, which means the water comes in at this rate, we direct it into a temporary holding pond, and it exits over a longer period of time at a rate like that, which the current catchment point can handle. So that's kind of what drove the whole project. So the other hurdle we had to overcome was we needed a substantial amount of fill material to get this done. And the only place we could find any available fill material was at the town site, which is probably a little over a mile west of this site. The town owns a big chunk of land, I don't know whether you're aware of it or not. And we did some research on the soils there and found that they probably, based on the USDA rating, would not be suitable. So we don't know for sure they won't be suitable. They've never been tested yet. We're going to have to test them at some point in time. But to get our cost estimate back to VDOT, we assume that we're going to distill the whole thing with 21B stone, which we can get at pounding mill. And if it ends up, we can use some of that fill material from the town site. That'll probably make it a little cheaper for us. But, so we're probably a couple of weeks away from submitting our package of information back to what's called our VDOT manager, and he's going to critique it and tell us all the things we've done wrong that we need to clean up. And then after that, it goes to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, which meets monthly, and we'll see how we do.
Yeah, the interesting thing with Andy on this project, guys, it started out with just an entrance. But Andy's history with Tazewell is foresight with all the ponds that we're blessed with in Tazewell. A majority of Tazewell was built well below practical elevation. And if it wasn't for Andy's input, the fire station where it is today would also have hydraulic problems. So it's grown from just an entrance into a full-blown repair project for the whole thing, and I think it's incredible. It's done. It's put a lot of time and energy in it.
And you can see by the master plan, we're kind of taking a long view of this as well. There are other grant funds out there available, some of them grants, some of them matching funds. But as Main Street continues to grow and our area continues to recover, I'm looking at that as one of many opportunities we have here that we really need to take advantage of. And Chris knows from the work we did at the Wellness Center that if you bang on it hard enough and long enough, you can get something really nice done. And that was not an easy project, and a lot of people were very negative about making the building the way as spectacular as it was. But Chris and I both knew if it wasn't the nicest building most of these people ever went in, it wasn't going to make it.
Well, Andy, I can tell you, Andy and I went to school together, and we played down there before. Is in the 60s when there was a foot of water on it all the time, and you get tackled and you come up almost drowned. So, and I had the opportunity to actually play all four corners, and if this concept here, if I could actually play again, I could play in the middle of the field. So appreciate the great design here, Andy.
Well, thanks.
It's been needed for a long time to update that facility.
Well, thanks. If you have any questions, just let me know. And again, Dr. Mullins is helping with the historical aspects of this. And I think we're also going to try to get the Clinch Valley to put out a little article for us, requesting photos and articles that some of the locals may have. I remember some of the epic football games between Tazewell and Big Creek.
Yeah.
A lot of you don't know that back in the 50s, McDowell County had 5 AAA schools in it. AAA or bigger. The population of McDowell County back in the 40s and 50s was over 100,000. And the battles we had between Tazewell High School and Big Creek were epic.
Couple of things just to add on to that. We'll seek other funding opportunities. VDOT will require a resolution,
Yes,
as
they
y'all
will.
well know. So we will draft up a resolution, but I would like to get council's approval to proceed with that resolution. I'll do an email, just get y'all approval. But every grant we do, I don't care what it is, y'all, you're doing 2 or 3 tonight, so.
Or 2 or 3, yeah, a whole bunch.
Yeah, we've got 3 8-ship grants in here tonight, so.
Yeah, I make a motion that we do approve it, stand with it and go with it.
Second. Motion is second.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Those of you, if you see me on the street and have questions, just ask me. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Thanks, Andy.
Appreciate it, Andy. Good seeing you.
Hey, next on the agenda is Pam Eagles, the chamber update.
Hello, Pam, how are you?
Good, how are you, Tom?
Good. Good to see you.
Okay, I have some packages for you. Reading material.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll be sure to get you.
Okay, well, thank you for your time. As most of you know, we have been in conversations with the Ridgelands Chamber for pretty close to 2 years now about developing a countywide chamber. And we're moving along really quickly with that now. Your packets has information about the implementation and where we are now. During the month of September, we conducted joint sessions, and they were facilitated by Doug Jackson. And Doug is a capacity development specialist for the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. And we held them in Pocahontas, Bluefield, Cedar Bluff, Tazewell, and Ridgelands. And again, all this was during the month of September. And the response was very favorable. And we actually have the recommendations from each area included in with your packet. The packet includes the various stages of planning up to this point. Again, we've been at it a long time, and we have some future target dates to implement the Tazewell County Chamber of Commerce. The proposed announcement of the consolidation to the newly formed Tazewell County Chamber of Commerce is April the 1st. So that's going to be soon, but no later than June the 30th, which is actually the fiscal year end. If you have any questions after you look over the packet, and after you review, I can come back at a later date and go in more depth, or, my card is in with your packets, and, feel free to call me with any questions. But we just wanted to bring you up to date where we are on this. There's been a lot of conversation, and also to ask for your support as we move forward with this. Is there any questions that anyone would have?
I've been absent the last few months. Will you continue to have your office over here in Tazewell?
That's the plan. It just makes sense because it's central, and this is the county seat, and we own the building, so.
Yeah, and if you give it up,
Yeah.
go back.
There will be repercussions, yeah. So right now, that is the plan, that it will be in Tazewell. So it just
Fran,
makes sense.
when you say that's the plan, that's not definitive yet?
I think it's like 90% definitive. I don't see any reason why that would change. I think Richlands is pretty much on board. That would be here.
99% of the people that I talk to, including the elected officials, that's been the number one concern. We're
Right.
proud to have that chamber here, we're proud to have that office here, we'd like to continue to have that office here if that transition is made.
Right.
Have you any idea who will be heading the chamber if you do merge?
We don't. We will hire a new director. Ginger will be retiring, and that's in your packet, June the 30th, if not before. If we hit that April 1st target, then she plans to go then. But she said June the 30th, by that time, definitely. And so we'll have to hire a full-time director for that position. Ginger's 20 hours a week. I'm 30. Of course, we both end up working a lot more, but we're both part-time. And this person will have to be full-time with benefits. So we're going to have to look at all of that. But we will have to hire a director. So we'll have to advertise for that here shortly.
And I assume the board will be made up of Tazewell and Richlands?
Yes, we're actually looking at having people on the board, like from all the areas, maybe Pocahontas, Bluefield, Richlands, Cedar Bluff, and Tazewell, so that each area is represented equally and has a voice. So.
Any other questions?
I got one more question. Who's going to make the vote to combine them? Who does that? Do both chambers get together and do that, or?
Right, both chambers have approved.
Oh,
Both boards have approved going forward for the consolidation.
okay.
So, and of course, we'll have committees as we work through. We have a draft of the strategic plan that Richlands and Tazewell both worked on, but we're hoping that Doug Jackson will help out with the final strategic plan. And then, of course, we'll have to do all the other legal things like new articles of incorporation, new bylaws, and we'll have to seek the help of an attorney to make sure that all of that's done
Then
properly.
you probably have to get approval from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Probably so, right. So, so there'll be a lot of legal things that we have to do before it's all implemented. But we'll have approval from different committees and to make sure all that's done properly and equally.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay.
For the job you've been doing well.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Martha Lewis.
How you doing, everyone? Good. Thanks for your time. Not sure of the formalities. Kind of feel like I'm on Shark Tank here. So, got some pass out for your what? Your brother, yeah, for gone. I do appreciate your time. I know some of you through sports, some from growing up, and some from working at the Chevron gas station before it became the Cave. I was, my uncle ran that joint. But what I'm here for, and Todd, you should have a copy of this?
Yeah, they've got it on the computer too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go.
We've always seen.
So I was asked by the CHS volleyball coach to approach the town to see about reserving some funding to turn the TMS gym from a single volleyball net court to a dual. And the reason behind that is we go to a lot of volleyball tournaments out of town. We'd like to hold volleyball tournaments here. We'd like to bring other schools to Tazewell to utilize our facilities to have tournaments, clinics, and things of that nature. As the gentleman before me said, you have things for kids to do, parents bring them, and the parents come, so they're utilizing our things on Main Street, 7, our shopping places. So it tends to bring in more money. So I told her, since I usually don't have a problem standing up and talking to people, I told her I would come to the town with one, like hearing Todd saying that, hey, we found some money. And then I come up here and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to take some money. So I don't know how it works. I don't know if there's, some thinking that has to go on over time to see if it would make sense for the town to put some money towards this, or if there's other ideas of things that I can look in besides utilizing town funds to do so. But I wanted to bring it in front of you guys and ladies to, something to think about that, since we have been talking about recreation quite a bit here tonight, it's just another avenue to possibly bring in more people to enjoy what Tazewell has to offer.
What's the school board's attitude toward this?
So the school board's attitude, same as it is with pretty much everything. We're strapped. We're always looking at budget deficits, so coming up with an extra $22,000 when we're having problems paying our teachers, or we can't have teachers' aides. But it all boils down to the money. So that tends to be the.
So does the school board, have they met and said that if you get this, do you have some type of a document that says that, yes, we will allow the transformation of this gym floor?
Not personally. Not to answer your question, no, I personally don't have anything to that.
I think anything that allows opportunity for our kids, I think is great. And obviously bringing people into the community to spend outside tax dollars with best tax dollars, so
Absolutely.
I'm all for that. I think that if we could get some type of a written document from the school board saying that, that they would allow this to go on at the middle school.
Right, because there's a lot goes into it. I mean, you can't do the construction while
You're
students
not
in
saying
session.
the whole thing, are
Say, no.
No.
Okay.
In other words, before
you? Before we do that.
before he could actually raise any money, okay? He could say, I will commit, somebody's going to commit $1,000, but by the same token, if the school don't allow him to,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
to do
understood.
construction on the floor, then it's a
Moot
moot
point.
it's a moot point. So,
Absolutely.
first thing I think you need to do is get the approval from the schools,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
And we start budget work session in about 2 months.
Okay.
So the timing's real good on it. A lot of times the council likes the last in idea. So if there are other entities that are helping fund this, it'd be a great idea to bring them forward too. So, but you don't have to come back. You can just walk across the streets, mail it, email it, whatever.
I'll put it in this mailbox.
Yeah, throw it through my
Tie a rock to it.
And I can bring it back, but like I say, we'll have a bunch of requests, so as soon as you can get it in.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna give you a plug here. His wife is actually open today for business on Main Street for Bliss on Main, so.
It's kind of a soft opening. Grand openings the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So
Good for you.
Yeah, I saw the windows decorated.
So we'll be glad to do a ribbon cutting.
okay, I'll let her know that. That's great. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's right.
Yeah, they're here.
Thanks, there's two. Okay, we'll go on. Approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is approval of the financial report.
Well, tax tickets have went out in the middle of October. We have been very busy. Tax revenues coming in pretty good. No real unusual problems with taxes or anything. So overall, it's going pretty good.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the financial report as presented?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or additions? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I guess that covers the events. Any questions on the events?
Is the event the listing of all the checks and stuff written?
No,
I'm sorry?
that's for what we had on Main Street and
Oh, okay.
whatever. And it's, some of that cost, like equipment or whatever, is, I guess they're just taking the cost for barriers or whatever. Is that correct?
Well, if we had any equipment, it was added up, but from time to time, some of the department heads, because of lack of bills,
Yeah.
I mean, so some of these might be a little short.
Okay.
You know, you can usually bank on 2 or 3 months and then be more accurate.
Okay.
Todd, for my part, I don't know about the rest of the council members, but I think you're wasting a lot of manpower and time on putting all that information on there and the checks that's being written. I don't know of a councilman here that I think of that would study that hard enough to know everything that's going on there.
You're talking about on the,
Check record part,
Yeah,
the check record.
you got page after page after page of all those checks, and I don't have time to go through all that. And I know it takes time to put it on the computer and for her to get it together to put it on the computer.
actually, they're put on the computer daily, and she just pretty much hits a button, but I would much rather y'all have that every month.
Well, you can do it if you want to, but as I said, I don't have time to go over all of it.
I really appreciate that, and I appreciate your trusting of us to do it. But for our own, I would rather keep that.
For public, instead of having a bunch of foyers,
Yeah.
okay, take a look at that.
But thank you, Jack. That really means a lot to staff, and I appreciate that. I know where you're coming from with that, and heartfelt. I
But it
appreciate
just takes a lot of time just to go through all that.
Yeah, it does.
All right,
And I figured that's what y'all get paid for.
Okay, we'll move on to the manager's update.
I have none this time.
Okay, planning commission.
Planning Commission met, we discussed additional boundaries for the town. We discussed approving of chickens in the town. We discussed naming the street alley out here. That's about the size of it.
So can we have chickens in town?
We'll see that later today.
I've been accused of chickens on my property.
I think it's on the thing here for tonight.
Okay. All right. All right, the train depot, Councilman Moss is not there, but we've already gone over most of that.
Yeah, I'd like to defer it down anyway. So
Okay.
we'll hit it.
On the miscellaneous, we'll defer to Councilman Fox on Veterans Day Parade.
Yeah. I'd like to thank Fuller Sanford and Sonia and Ms. Jackson. Glad to see you here. They've done a fantastic job, and the rest of the crew. I missed the Veterans Day Parade because we were short-handed. Somebody took half our men, but we're short-handed. And I have to keep working on those days, so I really missed the whole thing.
All right, Flora, your team, all right.
I've got a lot of input from Richlands, Woodfield, and the county, how that, it was fantastic here in town. And I like to keep it going on and on.
I tell you what,
We missed you.
okay, what makes
We missed
it,
you.
what makes it special in, there was only one World War II vet next to Mr. Kuchar, and his son's on the Florida part. But seeing those guys, especially the Vietnam guys walking down the street, and about everybody I've talked to was the Vietnam guys, they didn't get a parade when they came back, okay? And all these people come down Main Street and they're clapping, and those guys, you can see the smiles on their faces. And that's what's special about the Veterans Day Parade is the smiles that they have, so. Okay, we'll move on. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, unfinished business, second reading of the IDA ordinance. Decide.
You can wait, move on, or you can take care of it if you want to. But I can't help you none with it, so.
We'll just table that to where it comes. Okay. Next on the agenda is a temporary change of the council meetings for during the winter months. We're meeting at 7:30, and I don't know if anybody wants to change it from that point or just.
Well, I've been on the council 5 years. I haven't seen anything wrong with what we've been doing.
I think it should stay as it is.
Okay, we'll move on. You have motion and no motions, okay. Okay, next on the agenda is the second reading of the vehicle tax. Get down to it.
Do we read that,
I
Mayor?
got it. All right, this is under ordinances, license permits, and business regulations, Article 2, Uniform Depot Ordinance, Section 15-44, license and fee tax, be it ordained by the Council of the Town of Tazewell, Virginia, that hereby enacts the following amendment to Town Code, Section 15-44, regarding the rate of tax to be assessed against every person or business subject to a licensor who or which is engaged in retail sales or engaged in financial, real estate, professional services under the Town of Tazewell, Virginia Uniform Depot Ordinance, Section 15-44. This is amended. Section B is for retailers 23 cents per $100, $100 of gross receipts. Section C is for financial, real estate, and professional services, 25 cents per $100 of gross receipts. Do I hear a motion to approve, and we'll do a roll call vote?
I make the motion to approve it.
Do you have a second?
Oh, come on.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? We'll call vote. Councilman Ward?
Aye.
Fox?
Aye.
Councilman Ward?
Aye.
Councilman Brown?
Aye.
Yes, Peggy?
Aye.
And the motion carried. And next is the request for 2 parking spaces from the residents on 400 Main Street.
Yeah, Captain, if you'll recall, last month, you were presented with the request to go back and look at some minutes, and we were able to find some minutes that address some parking. However, the parking was specifically targeted for what was, I guess, a car dealership. And it was non-parking, it was restricted parking. I think it had signs up. And anyway, the dealership or whatever business was there requested that the town recognize 2-hour parking. Those minutes are in here. I know Leanne and her staff spent some time going through it diligently trying to find, and we were unable to. But it does mention in front of what is now the brewery. So with that being said, we were unable to find any documentation or any action that had ever been taken to recognize any parking spaces for residential use.
Well, Mr. Manager, I wasn't here last month, but I don't see how we can give 2 parking spots to any household on Main Street or any other street in this town. If you give one person 2 parking spots, you have to give everybody 2 parking spots. I mean, this house that we're talking about, the people bought it the way it sits. They knew the parking situation when they bought it. And I think that the council cannot give 2 parking spaces for that.
Well, Wanda's here, and maybe you can speak up. When you bought that property, it was bought, you and your sister, cousin, y'all assumed that this was a residential property, that you bought that. As a matter of fact, you didn't live in it for a number of years, correct?
Right. I moved back about 7 years ago. And we just assumed that the parking in front went with the house. Now, there's no issue about 2 parking spaces. There's only 1 parking space in front of the house. There is a garage, and the yellow line in front of the garage. So I assume that a garage would always be a non-parking
Well,
space.
in most of the towns and places that I've lived, they don't.
They don't block.
They don't block the area off that goes into the garage.
You can't be private, anybody's driveway.
Yeah, but people should have common courtesy not to block it. But no house in this town, or any town that I've lived in, has parking spaces that goes with the house in the town.
What she's saying is, it's, where her driveway is, it's blocked off as a yellow. Okay, so therefore, there's no parking allowed in front of her driveway. Is that correct?
Correct. And there's only 1 parking space in front of the house.
Okay.
So there's no issue about 2 spaces. There's only 1 parking space there. That's
But-
marked as a parking space.
But we can't designate any parking space in front of the house for the homeowner. I
know y'all looking for me, that's totally up to council.
I mean, if we want to leave the yellow in front of the driveway, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is designating parking spaces in front of homes on the streets in town.
I can tell you, and I think it's what Councilman Brown was referring to, if it's posted 2-hour parking, and somebody parks in front of her driveway, they are going to get a ticket if they're 2 hours unless we mark it otherwise.
Well, to mark the place in front of her driveway, as I said, she says it's already marked. If we leave it marked, that's all right. As far as I'm concerned, I just don't see how we can designate parking places in front of the house.
Well, my concern is if the property was bought with the idea that it had a parking spot.
Yeah, I mean,
That's my
just-
concern.
It was never an issue. That was just.
But Glenn,
Let's do this before we get a discussion,
buys a
okay?
home in town.
That's what?
Let's do this before we get a discussion of whether we have a motion then, and then a second, then we can go into discussion of whether we vote or not, okay?
Well, if we don't bring it up, you don't have to have a motion.
Well, I know, but we should discuss it.
Well, I will make a motion that she should have a spot in front of that house, as long as it's a residential house.
Well, then everybody else in town can come and ask.
I'll make a second.
Okay, got a second, okay? Now, we can have discussion.
Now, anybody else in town that is sitting on the street can come and request for a parking space in front of their house.
I mean, that's a legitimate concern, I understand that. I feel like, but the other side of that coin is that this is the only residential house on Main Street. And Main Street is dramatically changing right now, where there's a brewery opening right next door to her that she's already made several concessions to. And she just wants to make sure she has a spot to park because her driveway does not allow her to park in it. She can't get a car or a truck into it. So I definitely understand what you're saying.
Is
I
there
took
a
that
parking
same-
spot behind your home?
No,
No.
That alley that comes off of,
So she basically
I
will.
can't get the car up there. I can get the car about halfway, you're talking between, the trailer.
between where the barber,
The
beauty
hairdresser.
shop was
Sure.
at.
I can get my car about halfway up there, and then I just hit.
Okay, well, I know that the man who originally built it parked back there, so.
Well, Walter, yeah, I don't know what he had.
Yeah.
I had tried. trust
See,
me.
I had a lot of dealings with him when he built his house, so.
Okay, any other discussion?
Brad, where does that leave us? Where does that leave us from a law-based situation if we grant a parking space to a resident, whether it's on Main Street or anywhere? Where does that leave us in terms of precedence?
I can think of one, who I think you're probably gonna set one, because you already got, now you have, where there wasn't a residence above the Pop's Jewelry Store, there is now. And so what do you do about that person when Nancy Brooks comes up and says, I want a spot reserved for my apartment above the well?
And you have.
Or if any business comes up and says, that's what my first thought comes to, but then if you even try to break it down for residents, what do you do then?
You have the Van Dyke Apartments there, which they've got a parking.
They've got parking though, they're on Main Street, they've got a separate lot beside them, I don't think it really addresses that. And of course, where Andy Cecil's business is now, that was a residence that was converted. He has a driveway, he also parks in front, he does not have a reserved spot for his employees or for himself. That was a residence at one point in time, I think until probably around 91 or 92, until he bought it and then converted it and moved his business there. And then what he had to do there, they ended up, they pull into, because that's off of West Avenue, so he's able to drive on the side there. But, Juana's got, it's a tough situation.
So, Wanda, for clarification, your driveway that comes down has a town street parking spot in front of it, is that correct?
No, it's marked off.
Okay, so nobody's parking there, you're looking for, you've already got a driveway opening to Main Street, nobody will ever park there, but you're looking for one more additional. Okay, I just want that for clarification.
Yeah.
One other thing for the record, that house is not residential, it's owned business, and she does operate a business out of it. I'm just giving to you. for
She does
information.
operate a business out of it.
Yes.
Could we designate the yellow line in front of her driveway? Or could she be able to park there?
I thought I mean,
would that be, would we be able to make it where somebody, knowing that you can't get up the driveway, that the person that lives in that house could park in front of the driveway?
I don't see why they, I mean,
What's the yellow line blocking the driveway for?
It's
keep
to
people
keep
from
people
blocking
from parking there.
Well, she's got a driveway up, doesn't she?
I can't.
She can't get up the driveway.
Can't use the driveway.
I can't get in it.
You can't even get up it with a pickup truck out on there.
No.
Jesus.
that house used to face, what's it, the house, the site, when it was a house before, used to face east.
Yes.
It did not face south.
Oh.
And there was a driveway sort of adjacent to the car dealership back in the 80s and 70s.
Brad, do you have a recommendation here that doesn't create a lot of liability that can appease the taxpayer?
I think you've got all the facts before you guys. I think you're creating a problem. Not trying to.
Could the whole
She down.
thing be just painted yellow?
in front of your driveway?
In front of the whole house?
No,
Then every business would ask for that, or every houses, or every.
every business is entitled to ask for.
I just think you've got a problem. I see her problem she's got. That's
So,
part
yeah.
of it. In acquiring that property in a B2 zone, that is. You've got the same rights that everybody and responsibilities any other business on Main Street has relative to our existing parking. And if you start making exceptions to that, You're setting yourself up for everybody who has a business on Main Street to come up and say, wait a minute, I want to be treated the same.
Now, one issue here, it's a fluke that I happen to do something there, okay, and have a business, per se, because I did not plan that when I moved in there. And that really is a house. So anybody buying it, you know, like if my cousin and I sell it, we would probably sell it as a house. We would not sell it as a business.
But you would sell it as a house in a B2 district. No different than Andy Cecil just up the street, who, our time from the lady who owned that house before Andy
There's
bought it.
kids. There's kids.
Miss Kids, it was the same thing. It's a residence, but it's in the B2 zone. Dr. Mary Elizabeth's house, that could still be converted back into a residence, but it's in a B2 zone. And therefore, it has to be treated as a B2 property, or at least has the ability to be occupied as a B2 property. You may occupy as a residence, and that's no different than the Well Coffee Shop's apartment above it now.
So if the area in front of your driveway was restricted, so nobody parked there, would that suffice?
Yep, she can't park there either.
Why can't you park in front of your own
I
driveway?
would think if, well,
If it's marked off, no parking, you can't.
but I think, well, this is where I'm thinking that you might find some type of
Perception,
compromise.
Do what?
Is to say, and she's the only one that should have access to that in the first place, in terms of, it should not be blocked by somebody else, because that is the access to her driveway, to her house.
So if she
So
blocked it.
if she blocked it, who was harmed? No one.
As long as you take the no parking off.
Well, it's the public perception, because somebody else is gonna see it, it's not gonna know that. But once again, I would recommend that we somehow or another strategically come up with a way to mark that as a, not no parking, but private parking due to a home. We'll come up with some language, but, you know, I think it's very, a level of common sense, practicality that we mark that area right there in front of that driveway. We restrict it somehow for her use only.
Let me ask you a question. The old Johnson house, isn't that what it is up there where, beside the library?
Yes.
What if somebody bought that and moved back into it?
Well, there's no driveway there, is it?
No, that driveway actually was conveyed to the town 80 years ago. So now that's where they parked in the back, that's where the garage was.
I'm just trying to find remedy.
I think if you, I think if you put literally, no parking private drive,
Private drive, that's right, private drive.
you put the sign there, and therefore she has basically a license for that spot, then that prevents, the only person that can park there is Ms. Martinez.
But not two vehicles.
Well, I think that's what she can do. I think that, because that makes
Well, evidently,
sense, because
you have
the
two
access
people
she has
living
to
there.
that house is through that
No,
driveway.
right now it's just me,
Just one car?
just one car.
So that would suffice.
Can I amend my motion to that?
Sure.
I think what you probably was to let that one
Just let it
fail,
Let the other one-
and then come back and make a new motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. No.
No. Now make the motion.
Now make a motion.
Well, how should we word this?
Your motion just needs to, your motion will be that the area directly in front of her driveway
Will be private.
will be private
Access.
access.
No
We'll
parking,
find
private
that
Private access to a driveway.
language. And we'll find that language. Any other vehicles that are parked in that area will be illegally parked, and we will exercise the law accordingly.
You get that, Leanne?
And the chief.
Exercise.
And the chief of police will have to advise all of his people.
I think you're.
I have one code enforcement officer to take care of it.
She's good.
She's pretty popular on Facebook.
What's more popular is the comments on Facebook of, I got 3 tickets this week.
Yeah.
That one's really,
Oh, you're coming on the train?
Got a
In
motion?
the same spot.
Got a second? Got a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right. Next on the agenda is the North Tazewell Train Station Renovation Award.
Mayor, during the work session, we went over this in depth. I would like to ask council for your unanimous support and proceed to award the contract as stated to Mr. Daniel Hurst, Building Specialist Incorporated. Total cost for the project is $418,966.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to award train station, North Tazewell Train Station renovation bid to Building Specialists Incorporated of Roanoke, Virginia for $418,966? Do I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we got a motion to have a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next on the agenda is donation request from the Southwest Virginia Festival of Arts.
Okay, this is an annual request. We're used to seeing it, have since I've been here anyway. It's a $500 annual donation for Southwest Virginia Community College Education Foundation.
Where is it?
Hey,
We've done it every year as far as I can remember.
$500.
We do it.
I got a motion to. I have a second.
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, next is on the agenda is the revenues. Let's put it back up to the second reading of the IDA ordinance, please, before we get into this.
Hey, Brad. Back to me, yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys may remember that from the last two meetings, the IDA actually was formed by resolution of this council several years ago, and actually then after it basically came into existence again, or was reinvigorated about 2 years ago, passed a set of bylaws as to its operation. That was never though properly put into and formally put into the code, which we now have done under Chapter 2 administration. It is a fairly lengthy ordinance, and of course it doesn't change anything that this council has already adopted and put in place. It's strictly a formal recordation of the ordinance in the code to show exactly what the bylaws have been doing for the past 2 years anyway.
I make a motion that we don't read them tonight. We can still go on without it. We don't have to.
And I was going to recommend that basically you do a waiver, for a motion for a waiver of the reading. Because again, it's something that you've already done. It's already been on the books as far as the operation of the IDA for the last 2 years. Motion to second, then you have to vote on it.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then, so you'll need in a second, now you need a motion for a vote to adopt.
Okay, yeah, some motion
I'll make the
to
motion that we vote for the ordinance.
Second.
I got a motion to adopt the IDA
ADA ordinance.
in a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll move on to new business. Second, revenue sharing resolution. And I'll read this resolution. Whereas the town council of the town of Tazewell desires to submit an application for allocation of funds up to $1 million, $500,000 state, $500,000 locally, to be matched to the Virginia Department of Transportation fiscal year 2018 to 2019 and fiscal year 2019 through year 2020 revenue sharing program. And whereas $500,000 of these funds are requested to fund pavement overlays for various routes in town of Tazewell. And whereas the town council of the town of Tazewell hereby supports this application for an allocation of $1 million, $500,000 state, $500 local, to be matched through the Virginia Department of Transportation fiscal year 2018 through 2019 fiscal year 2019 to 2020 revenue sharing program. Therefore, be it resolved that the town council hereby commits to fund its local share of preliminary engineering, right-of-ways, and constructions as applicable of the project under agreement with the Virginia Department of Transportation to in accordance with the project financial documents be developed. Resolved that the town manager Day is authorized to execute all agreements for any approved projects with the Virginia Department of Transportation, which will be adopted on this date. They are motion to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion?
No question.
Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Todd, you want to explain these?
Yeah, there's another, the next three are,
And I'll read those, read it. Chris.
You sure you don't want somebody else?
I'll do it.
Okay, you got it.
VDOT has a number of different grants. We're always trying to go after grants, free money here and there. But this is a 100% matching free money project. It's called an HSIP, and HSIP stands for Highway Improvement Safety program. But there's 3 different sections of sidewalk that we're looking to upgrade, which would include drainage, which Fincastle has 0 drainage. I think there's 2 DIs traveling west from the cave all the way down to Tazewell Avenue. But from Steele's Lane to Tazewell is 1 application, which would include drainage, but it's a total project. Both of these, all of these projects in here are well over $1 million construction estimates. Another one goes from Lincolnshire Park, which is pretty cool. It'll run from Lincolnshire, actually between the pool areas, so it'll maneuver through there and go all the way out to the 460 corridor, which is a $1 million project. I don't have to, y'all see that in there, but and then the other one will go from all the way from Benbolt all the way up to Steele's Lane.
Are these grants?
All 100% pre-funded grants.
Nice. Bring them on. Yeah. Motion to approve.
Okay.
Y'all got to do these resolutions on all of them. For
Okay.
some reason, you can't, you got to get free money, you got to go through the
Okay.
Motion to
Okay.
approve.
We have to read these. Okay.
You don't have to read all 4 of them.
I'm just going to combine, okay?
Yeah.
This is Route 61, Phase 1 and Phase 2. Tazewell Avenue from Tazewell Avenue to Carolina Avenue, from Fincastle, Tazewell Avenue to Steele's Lanes, and from Steele's Lanes to Route 61. Total of all these together was $4,130,250.
Y'all hear that?
$4,130,000.
27 cents.
All right. Whereas in accordance to Commonwealth Transportation Instruction Allocation Procedures, it is necessary that a request by resolution be received for the sponsoring local jurisdiction or state, federal agency board that the Virginia Department of Transportation established a HSAP project in the town of Tazewell. Now therefore it be resolved that the town of Tazewell requests that the Commonwealth Transportation Board to establish funding for these routes I said, Route 61, Tazewell Avenue to Carolina, Fincastle to Steele's Lanes, and Steele's Lanes to Route 61. Restoring safety improvements projects. Be it further resolved that the town of Tazewell agrees to provide up to a 2% match of total cost for planning, design, right-of-way, and construction of this project in the event that the state does not, and be further resolved that the town of Tazewell hereby agrees to enter into an agreement with Virginia Department of Transportation to provide oversight to ensure that the project is developed in accordance with all the state and federal requirements for design, right-of-way, acquisition, and construction of a federally funded transportation project. And be it further resolved that the town of Tazewell be responsible for maintenance, upkeep, and operating costs of any facility constructed with this HSAP funds. And be it further resolved that if the town of Tazewell elects to cancel this project, the town of Tazewell hereby agrees to reimburse the Virginia Department of Transportation for the total amount of costs expended by the department to this date of the department is notified of such cancellation. The town of Tazewell also agrees to repay any funds previously reimbursed that is later deemed ineligible by the Federal Highway Administration. To be further resolved that Todd Day, the town manager of the town of Tazewell, is hereby authorized to sign any and all documents concerning this application, acceptance of the project management documents. Do I hear a motion to approve these resolutions?
Three resolutions, right?
Four.
I make a motion that we approve all four.
I'll second.
Second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. All right. Our DG resolution. Okay. Ready for that?
I'm sorry?
The resolution for the DG.
You want me to read it, or you want to read it?
You can.
I can't even see it.
Okay. I'll read it. Okay. The governing body of the town of Tazewell, at this address, let's see, be it hereby resolved that in order to facilitate obtaining financial assistance through rural business development grant from the USDA Rural Development, in order to provide financing to small and emerging businesses in the town of Tazewell, the governing body does hereby adopt and abide by the contained in the following agreements. One is a letter of conditions, as dated in June 29, 2017, the scope of work, and Form RD 1942-46, letter of intent to meet conditions. Form RD 1940-1, request for application of funds. Form RD 400-1, equal opportunity agreement. RD 400-4, assurance agreement. Form AD 1047, certification regarding department suspension and other responsibilities matters, primary covered transactions, whatever that means. And Form AD 1049, certification regarding drug-free workplace requirements. And our number 9, RD instruction 1940Q, Exhibit A1, certification for contracts, grants, and loans regarding lobbying. And last one is SFLLL, disclosure form to report lobbying. It be it further resolved that the town manager of the town of Tazewell is authorized to execute on behalf of the governing body to the above agreements to execute such documents, including but not limited to debt and grant instruments and security instruments as may be required in obtaining the said financial assistance. This resolution, see if I adopted on this date. I hear a motion to adopt this resolution.
Can you tell me what it's for? I can't, all through all that, what is this for?
That rural business development grant, that we were
Yeah,
trying to obtain a grant.
for what?
One
So
month.
that's $75,000 that we'd be trying to get for a year from them.
How
It's a revolving loan fund.
There's nowhere in this resolution does it say anything about that, really.
I couldn't hear what it's for.
We've been working for the last year to obtain a USDA grant. It's a revolving fund loan program where the IDA and/or the council can lend money out to businesses or entrepreneurs that need a little kick. It's $75,000 worth of free money that the locality can use as a revolving fund.
And they pay us back.
Yeah, they pay us back. It's not free.
But we don't have to put any matching up.
Well, we got a $5,000 match, which makes it 75. So there's 70 there. It's a $5,000 match.
And everything he read there, those items 1 through 10, is everything that we've already turned into them. They just want to make sure that we're following the up and up when to approve it.
I'm so moved. We approve. Second. Sorry.
Any other discussion?
I have a good question, Dr. Brown. I like that.
Any other discussion? Call for a vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is this CPPDG funding wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, the Cumberland Planning District, if you recall, we spoke about this in the work session. This is a $27,623.56 grant to do an RFQ, an RFP, PER, whichever one you want to call it. Just need approval to proceed with getting that in the paper, running an ad, and we will do professional interviews in the next couple of months.
You need a motion for that?
Yes, just
You have a motion for that effect?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Have a second?
No, second it.
Any other discussion? Okay, call for a vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm thinking about it.
Yes or no, David?
Jeez, I'm telling you.
I told you.
It's just for
If
study.
you don't fix it, you got no place
This is
to
for
put it.
study.
It's a grant.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's a good grant, but what's coming behind it?
Well, it's something we need
Uh,
to.
say
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now,
Jeez.
okay. All right, move on to, I'm not sure what this is, for a language assistance plan.
Yeah, what this is, in order to accept federal dollars, federal grants, if anybody comes to town hall that does not speak English, we have to have a format in place to address those. In this format right here, and I'll be more than happy to read it to you, the following plan establishes a protocol to deal with situations where non-English speaking customers request service. First, information from the American Fact Finders was obtained to determine that the number of non-English speaking individuals or individuals with limited English proficiencies are called LEPs that are present in our service area attached. Based on the information obtained, it was determined that our potential for such situation is very small. Therefore, it was determined that translation written material will not be will not need to be pre-prepared. However, in such situation occurs on an internet-based service, will be utilized to convert our written documents to specify language needed. If a non-English speaking customer requests service, our action will be to utilize the attached language identification flashcard to determine their native language. If a language interpreter is not available at one of the location, high school, colleges, universities, one of the internet-based services will be utilized to provide interpretation services. The same internet service will be used to translate written documents as well. Costs associated with providing the association will not be paid by the customer, rather will be incurred by the owner or at our own expense. The internet-based services that we will research or provide interpretive and translated services for the language other than English that are present in our service area. So all this is a protocol that we have to have in place to be the motion to adopt.
Yeah, motion to adopt.
I don't know whether I will make the motion or not, but Teddy Roosevelt said, if they come, let them learn English.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Do I have a motion to adopt this plan?
I'll make a motion.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, next on the agenda is first reading of the animals and fowls ordinance.
The planning commission had requested Dr. Barrett, actually went through Chris to prepare an ordinance that dealt with the possibility of anyone keeping either chickens or ducks on the property. And what you have before you is a first draft at this. I'll go through and read the whole thing. It needs to be read because it is something that's totally new in our code. We don't have anything that deals with it at this point in time. If you look in chapter 4 under animals and fowl, there is a prohibition against keeping hogs. There's a lot of the ordinance dealing with animals running at large in terms of dogs and that sort of thing, but nothing dealing with domestic fowl. So that's what the Planning Commission suggested that the council consider for adopting. So I'll go through here and read this. Ordinance chapter 4, animals and fowl, be it ordained by the Council of the Town of Tazewell, Virginia, the 1999 Acts. Town Code Section 4-5 regarding the keeping and raising of domestic fowl within the corporate limits of the town. Section 4-5, keeping of domestic fowl. Definitions. For the purpose of this chapter, the following words shall have the following meanings. Chicken, a domestic egg-laying hen belonging to the subspecies Gallus domesticus, which does not refer to any other type of fowl or game bird. Domestic duck, a waterfowl with webbed feet that is raised for meat, eggs, and/or down, kept for show as a pet or for its ornamental value. Domestic duck, apart from the Muscovy duck, Carina machata, are descended from the mallard and Spatorochus. I know. You got me, guys. I get one shot at that. Permitted use. The owner of any property who maintains a residence thereon may keep and raise domestic fowl as incidental to the property the owner's use thereof. Paragraph C, conditions for permitted use. The keeping and raising of such domestic fowl is permissible so long as the use is incidental to a dwelling on the premises. 2, if the dwelling on the premises is a rental or is otherwise not occupied by the owner, written consent of the property owner for such use must be provided to the town. 3, no more than 8 domestic fowl may be kept on the property at any one time. Number 4, all areas associated with the keeping of fowl should be kept clean and made free of waste on a regular basis. Waste associated with the use shall be disposed of in an appropriate waste disposal container that is periodically removed from the site. 5, the property owner or lessee shall employ a means of eliminating any odor problems and propagation of insects and/or rodents related to use. And 6, at all times, domestic fowl are to be kept within a single building under the following conditions. A, the building shall be constructed of materials and be of similar appearance to the residence and/or other dwellings located within that zone. B, the building shall have a foundation footprint with a maximum of 20 square feet. C, the interior of the building shall provide a minimum of 2 square feet of space per fowl. D, if a space or run is utilized, the run shall be fenced and limited to a maximum area of 80 square feet with a minimum area of 10 square feet per fowl. And 1, the fenced outside run area shall be securely and neatly enclosed on the top and sides with material and appearance comparable to that referenced in paragraph 6A above. 2, the height of the run shall be restricted to a maximum of 6 feet. Part E, the building and attached outside run, if applicable, shall 1, be located in the rear yard only, 2, meet all applicable rear and side yard zoning setback requirements, 3, be a minimum of 35 feet from any residential dwelling on any adjacent lot, and 4, if located near a waterway, be a minimum of 50 feet from the point of the mean high water of such waterway measured from the nearest property line. D, prohibited activity, slaughtering of fowl on premises shall be prohibited. 2, roosters, turkeys, and/or peacocks shall not be kept on any premises located within any residential district within the town. E, nuisance determination. Any nuisance caused by the keeping of fowl shall be abated in accord with Chapter 17 of this code.
Very good.
First reading. One thing that was brought up to me before the meeting, this does not prohibit any implications to the historical district. So it says in any residence. So it's R1 through anything through industrial. If somebody has a house, the residence is located, they can do this. But bring that point to the council's attention.
So
I don't,
we can actually have a chicken.
How do you come to the number 8?
basically, it's
I did research for Blacksburg, Christiansburg,
other
Newport
county
Beach,
towns.
South Boston, Avenue, all of them.
Otherwise, you're getting up into a chicken farm.
I had like 12 deer in my yard last night. I had a turkey in my
You
yard.
haven't fenced and haven't.
No, but there's a lot of food.
How to keep our running
I can tell you that.
All right.
Any other questions?
You know,
So-
Jack, do we think
Have a
it's
business.
all you do?
You can actually have business.
If you did, I think it would be a matter for them for your zoning administrator to make that determination whether or not a business license will be necessary. Yes.
What, to sell eggs or to sell chickens?
Yes. I think it's possible.
Okay. We don't have to have a public hearing on that.
No.
Okay.
You've already got a lot of them in town.
All right. We'll move on, miscellaneous, anything else for council before we go into executive session?
H.
Yeah.
Oh, no, hang on, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to leave you out.
Lisa, Harry came to me and did all her addresses for every building in town, and she left and called me a few minutes later and said, we forgot Donnie's building there, the old Donnie's restaurant. And Erwin had asked me months ago to put a name on that alley, and now we got to, because we got an address in the old Donnie's restaurant. And we come up with Collins Avenue, but that's already used. The guy that used to run the Federated AMC dealership there.
Yes. Marshall Collins.
Collins was already using the county, so we couldn't use that, so we couldn't use Federated, so we come up with Federal Avenue. The planning commission recommended that name to y'all vote on.
Do you have a motion to?
I make that motion to name it.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Call for a vote, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anything else? Anybody signed up, John? All right. Need a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters, 2 personnel matters, and 2 prospective businesses. Have a motion to that effect.
Make a motion.
Got a motion and a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor say aye.